YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and, well, there was news today. I'm sure you all have seen it since I'm always the last one to these, but you know what? Let's dive in and talk a little bit about the new announcement today. I'm going to play the video from Total War here, leave myself on, talk through it a little. Go check the link if you want to watch it alone.
Sing of the rage of Peleus' son, Achilles. Murderous. Doomed.
Like the soundtrack. Definitely like that soundtrack. So here we're gonna see Achilles and Hector facing off in front of the gates of Troy. Now, there's gonna be one thing, and if you came here to watch this video alone, you shouldn't, because this is Total War's video. They did say in the Discord that we could comment over and have reactions and stuff. So here's my reaction. Oh, no. The video has lots of Spartan kicks, you know, like this is Sparta kicks, and hopefully the game's full of them too, right? That's gonna be the most important element in a game like this. Alright, so Total War Saga.
What are the children of
Troy.
men but as leaves that drop at the wind's breath?
Troy. So an interesting setting, and I think it's obviously going to have a lot of inspiration from Homer's Iliad. They had a second video that introduces the campaign map a little. Now we'll talk about that campaign map in a minute. I think before we do, Total War put out a tweet, which was this one here. Ask questions. I think there's a couple of important things to cover in here. One, this line right here. They're expecting a release on Steam in 2020. You can go ahead and add it to your wish list. I'll have this Steam page linked for you if you want to do that. So yes, it'll be a standalone. So for those maybe not as familiar with Saga, it is a standalone. The examples of it would be like Thrones of Britannia or Total War Fall of the Samurai. Or Shogun 2 Fall of the Samurai. Whatever they call it now. Total War Saga Fall of the Samurai. They renamed it. So Steam 2020. We don't know when in 2020 yet. All we know is 2020. So why did they choose Troy? Well, they say because it's an interesting thing for them to go the furthest back that they've ever gone into history. This is taking us back into the late Bronze Age. So yes, this is taking us back into the late Bronze Age. And then they have a couple of questions here about their approach and their research. And basically they're saying we didn't go strictly off just historical record, that they borrowed a lot from mythical and other writings, you know, like Homer's Iliad. So this is going to be probably similar in some ways to where we've seen Total War 3 Kingdoms and how they really leaned onto the romance for romance mode. They're definitely going to be doing that in this game, and we'll see why. There's another one here because they mentioned in the video about the gods, what role do the gods play. So I don't think there's going to be like lightning bolts and other stuff. I mean, it could be. They haven't said yes or no on that stuff yet, but the way that they talk it here, they basically say actions think that the gods are, you know, approving of their actions and all that stuff that'll drive certain bonuses and other benefits for the factions at play. But it'll be an interesting new system that they're going to work in there where you kind of have to do these different things to be gaining the favor of the gods or however it works, right? It says, will there be any mythical creatures? Now, I thought this was an interesting question for them to put in here because there's no mythical creatures that I saw in the video. I didn't look super close. but I didn't see any, and I kind of expected to because of the rumors that were floating around because of a bunch of leaks that I saw yesterday. There were no creatures in the video, but they go ahead and answer it here, and they say, yes, there will be creatures based on the mythology around this. That's going to be interesting. This is going to be the only Total War game outside of Warhammer where you're going to have a single entity creature. I'm not talking about a lord like from Three Kingdoms, but they kind of are a creature because they're so strong fighting in a battle. So this could be interesting to see what we come up with. You all familiar with Homer's Iliad? What kind of creatures were there? Leave some comments about the type of creatures you think we might see in the game. So how is battle different in Troy? They go on to talk a little bit about how this time period had very few horses, and that most of those horses were used with chariots, so we will be seeing some chariots, but the game is heavily focused on infantry, and that they're going to be working very hard on making the weight classes of infantry really mean something, so like light, heavy, medium. I'm going to read you just a couple of things here just so that we get this straight. It says there are many new active and passive battle abilities that fuel the dynamism in the game. So elite defensive warriors may be immune to flanking, while elite assault troops may be expert flankers, increasing the negative effects of flanking on the units they outflank. That's a lot of flank, all in one sentence. You know it. Anyway, so it's going to be a lot about infantry on infantry. Now, if there's monsters in the mix, it'll be curious to see how those play in. Obviously, I'm guessing we don't have stuff like wizards and everything like in Total War Warhammer, so I'm going to be really curious to see how they do this. And I think it's a good idea. They need to pursue this. And they need to pursue it for the sake of historical Total War as well. I know that this is going to be another game that kind of mixes fantasy and history, and some people are going to be absolutely mad at this. Why don't they just make history games anymore? Well, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody. There's obviously a big crowd of people that still love history only. But I'm going to speak as someone who loved the history Total War games, but is being somewhat realistic. Warhammer is just so much more interesting to me because it has so many more battle mechanics. There's flying, there's magic, there's special abilities and all these things that just make the combat a lot more rich. Now, the siege battles are as boring as ever, but since you have all those mechanics, it makes it fun. So I like the idea that CA is headed towards here. They know they're going to have to come up with something, and that was one of the things in Three Kingdoms. It's not awful, but the battles in Three Kingdoms fall a little flat by comparison to Warhammer because of the lack of depth. So if they can come up with some way to make the infantry engagements more interesting because of the different types of infantry and the abilities that they bring, that will be really fun. And I would like to see that, and I hope we do see it. So I think that they're probably headed in the right direction. I'll be curious to see more, though, as they release more. Now, they talk about what famous heroes will be there. They just mentioned that, there's a lot of heroes in the Iliad, and that you'll probably obviously see Achilles and the Prince of Troy, Hector. So we'll see those characters. They talk about dueling mechanics and say that there will be some type of dueling. It won't be exactly like Three Kingdoms. There will be opportunities to get out of it. They're basically, all they really emphasize is that there's going to be epic showdowns between the leaders. They mentioned that there will be some similarity to Three Kingdoms, but still differences. Now, the really interesting thing with this announcement is a difference in economy. Now, all the Total War games we're used to, there are resources on the map, but they're really just intended for trade or maybe specific buildings. And now there's going to be different resources on the map depending on the region you're in. You'll get a certain amount that you can take advantage of, and those resources are, and I'm going to read through this to make sure we get it right. It's going to be wood, food, stone, bronze, and gold. So you're going to have all of those resources in order to be successful. It says gold is the master resource and is vital for trade due to its universal rarity. But you're going to have these other units, or these other resources in order to build and recruit units. That's going to be interesting to kind of see as a change, right? Instead of just money, you have to have these different resources. That'll add an interesting mechanic that is present in many RTS games like Age of Empires into this game, and I feel like that could be a very interesting thing. We'll see how it plays out. Now, people asked about naval battles, and basically Creative Assembly comes back and says there are no naval battles because we really don't know much about the Navy from this time period. Plus, they haven't done naval battles in one of their newer engines and probably didn't want to step into that in a saga. And so it's going to be just like Total War Warhammer 2 in the sense that basically the two ships wheel up on each other. the captains shake their fist at each other and say, hey, pull over so we can go settle this. And they go to the island and settle it. Some people will hate that. Other people were fine with it. I think it'll be fine. It'll get the job done for what needs to be done here, even if it's probably not how things worked in history, where all the triremes would pull over to the nearest island, get out and settle their differences, and then sail away. But hey, whatever. And then basically they talk about the visual style. Speaking of visual style, let's play the next video. So this is a campaign map reveal.
Peggy 16.
Oh, I'm not 16. I don't think I can watch this.
In this age of myth, heroes walk the earth. Yet it takes only a single impulsive act to...
So I'm going to pause it right here, and I'm going to say a few things. Art style, you can see it back here. It's supposed to be kind of like what you would see on like clay pots and stuff, like that kind of art style to it back here. It looks very cool. They've never done anything quite like this. I like it. It kind of puts it into this feeling of kind of historical, but also kind of like you're in this cool legend. I think it's pretty neat. The fog of war is this brown color like we've never seen before that kind of fits the motif. All these earth tones up in the sky and here. So very interesting. This map to me really, really looks like Warhammer's engine. Now, it could be Three Kingdoms. I don't know which one it is, and Three Kingdoms was kind of just built up a little bit from the Warhammer engine. They basically, I don't understand it perfectly, but if I understood it right from CA, from questions in the past, they're taking the engine the game is built on and usually just kind of adding to it and making it better over time. But to me, this map is very reminiscent of some of the islands and mountains and stuff that we see in the Warhammer 2 map. And honestly, that kind of makes me pretty happy. Not because Three Kingdoms isn't good, but they also mention a lot of diplomacy mechanics and stuff that sound a lot like Three Kingdoms, so I'm going to be curious to see which game this one really takes after, and maybe the answer is both. You know, maybe the answer is both, because CA is just improving that kind of stuff all along.
Audacious Paris, Prince of Troy, takes beautiful Helen from her palace in Sparta. As they sail away, Helen's husband, King Menelaus, curses her name. He will bring his errant wife.
So we learned here that obviously Sparta involved, and well, maybe this isn't like the name of their faction, but it mentioned being taken away from Sparta and King Menelaus here, so I think that's what they mentioned. So this is obviously one of the factions.
Whatever the cost.
It's going to mention another faction here.
King Agamemnon, wide ruling lord of finely walled Mycenae, hears his brother's call.
They call it Mycenae. I always thought it was like Mycenae or something, but anyway, I don't know how to pronounce all this stuff right. Anyway, the King Agamemnon, another character, probably faction you can play as. Maybe it's characters instead of factions that you play as. I don't know.
Swift-footed Achilles and Odysseus of the silver tongue.
So two heroes, Achilles and Odysseus, that we get to see here. So pretty cool. These guys kind of look like campaign map heroes once again, like from Total War Warhammer, and so that's another reason why this whole map being reminiscent of Warhammer, the heroes marching up. I kind of feel like this game is going to be built in many ways a little closer to Warhammer. I have no confirmation of this, and I could be wrong. I'm just giving you all my 2 cents here, and if I'm wrong, that's fine. We'll learn as we go.
All mortals' thoughts turn towards the high peak of fog-shrouded Olympus. Even warriors marching to war and slaughter must seek the favor of the gods. While Paris and Helen flee east to Troy, a formidable Achaean army musters in the west.
The water and the graphics here just look absolutely beautiful. Looks very neat. I personally am kind of digging this art style. It's nice.
Paris at the gates of Troy. A wind from the west.
Now, this is interesting here, though. I keep saying that there's pieces of this game that remind me of Total War Warhammer 2, but you just saw there, like, it swings to nighttime. That happens in Total War 3 Kingdoms. So, like I said, just because the looks and some of those things are making it reminiscent, again, maybe it's just the fact that the code can do both now because C8 has moved it forward, making these extra games. But this looks like there's a nighttime mode on the campaign map.
Dust at his feet. He looks to his brother and asks, What have you done?
And that is what we get for Total War Troy right now. So, or Troy, a Total War Saga, I should say. I gotta get it right here. Anyway, go watch the videos on Total War's channel so you can see them without me and my ugly mug taking up space on it. I do appreciate Creative Assembly being kind enough to let us show these videos and give our reaction to them without being, you know, like wanting to strike us and all that other kind of stuff. So it's always nice that they appreciate those folks trying to inform the community about what's going on. But yeah, so Total War Troy. What's my take on it? Well, here's what I want out of the game. Now, I'm going to tell you what I want. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that if it is what I want, that the game's going to be the most successful. I'm just telling you what I want out of it. I would love to have you all get down in the comments and tell me what you want out of it and what you thought about the announcement, okay? And of course, if you liked the video, go hit the thumbs up. And if you hated it, you know, go be Achilles and drop a massive thumbs down bomb all over me. In any case, here's what I think. I think the game is going to be fun. I think it sounds like that Creative Assembly is embracing the fantasy and being intertwined with the history. And I like this. And one of the reasons why I like this is because and again, this is a personal opinion, okay? This is not a fact. It's a personal opinion from me, and it's going to depend on your play style. I feel like Total War Warhammer has fit Total War so good. Like the Warhammer fantasy genre has just made Total War better, in my opinion, in terms of like the experience and the battles and the fun and the replayability and the faction diversity. I feel like Total War is trying to mesh that a little bit, and they already did some in 3K. A lot less so than what we're going to see here because there's going to be monsters. But I feel like they're trying to mesh that a little bit in this title. I don't think they'll do this with every title. I don't think they're abandoning their Total War historical fan base, but I think that they are trying to take advantage of the fact that there's probably a lot of people who feel the same as me. That doesn't mean everybody does, and that's why I think that they are certainly still going to be working on history-based titles. But I think it's going to be good if they pull it off right. I think that their biggest risk is the fact that a lot of the combat's going to be all infantry. Infantry combat in Total War can be really boring without something to spice it up. Because it's just a couple of units hammering on each other, or it's a predetermined fight. This one beats that one. There's nothing interesting there. So that's where, like in Total War Warhammer and Warhammer 2, you get into these fights, but then, you know, casters are dropping spells, and monsters are swooping in, and breath attacks, and special abilities, and that makes the infantry fights way more interesting because there are so many different ways that those infantry fights can happen. If they do a good job with unit diversity here, with special abilities, with really separating the weight classes of light, medium, heavy, and making them special and useful, I feel like this game can really be fun. And I have high hopes for it because it lets the player get into one of these giant, big, epic stories from history and play it out the way that they imagined it or rewrite it. So it should be very fun. I'm looking forward to it. I want to hear more. We don't know a ton right now. I think I've covered what we know. If I missed anything, please let me know. Hope y'all enjoyed it. HeirofCarthage signing out for now, and I will see you all soon with some more news about Troy as soon as we get it.